At what point did we realize that sex leads to a baby being born 9 months later? I bet it was independently discovered countless times by women who knew how many times the sun had risen since the one time they ever had sex. We knew that sex leads to pregnancy, and it takes about 9 months, probably before we were our own species. It's very obvious, especially for girls who get pregnant the first time they have sex. It was also understood that semen in the vagina specifically was required, though people thought that the semen was like a fully formed seed, and the uterus was more like a field it could grow on, rather than understanding the concept of an egg and gamete. The actual mechanism of fertilization was discovered in the 1800s. Pregnancy and birth have been basically understood since prehistory. Obviously, the science behind it wasn't known, but connection between sex and pregnancy was certainly made prior to the dawn of civilization. In addition to what's been noted, there are animals who have sex and then give litters. Any human who observed animals could make that connection and work it back their own actions. If the first calendar was a bone with 29 notches on it, then I am pretty sure we made the connection quite early. Edited to correct, it was 28 notches. I'd guess it was somewhere around the time when Homo sapiens began to reproduce and spread around the globe. 1870 was the consensus about sperms and eggs, but we've known the link since before we settled down to agriculture. For it to be 9 months, there needs to be an approximate distribution of 30 days month. By that logic, it will be 3000 BC, around when the Egyptian calendar was invented. Some people are still discovering that to this day. It's probably something we've always understood, as it's part of the nature of all animals to reproduce and survive. We may not have always understood the time frame or why it takes 9 months, but we have always understood the link between sex and childbirth. 9 months after the first ever people had sex, it probably took a few more ghosts to work out it was the white gooey stuff. Probably since that became the method of conception, so a few million years ago. I've always wondered how early humans even discovered sex. Like, hey, I've got a stick thing and you have a hole. Let me poke. 1923. Grade 5, if I recall correctly. It would have been spotted very easily in a small village or hamlet. When you realized that most birthdays are in August, September, and October. Just like any other animal, it's instinct. The 9 months period must have taken much longer to estimate. Back in the middle of the last century, we lived in a small village in Lincolnshire. One of my mother's friends, who had 6 kids, confided in her one day, "Me Jack aren't having any more kids. We found out what causes them." Just how true that is I don't know, but knowing the woman in question I find it plausible. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away,